them ruin the crown. They will call you lose when you leave the pound, just to hide their deceit. Don't fret, be the best of the two. Don't bite as you chew. They will trash you, bash you when you're not kissing ass. When you call out their hash, it's best to walk away to send them back. Cults are distinguished like a vanquish, as they feed your meals just like a banquet. They fill your mind up with shit. They'll talk to you like a kid. Cults' duty is to tear and repair. They say they are there when they only want you to be despair. The definition of a cult. The definition of a cult is. The definition of a cult. The definition of a cult is. The definition of a cult. The definition of a cult is. The definition of a cult. The definition of a cult is. The definition of a cult. The definition of a cult is. Sin and the things they think. Let them lose, drink booze as they tap the snooze. They take over all your thinking, to control your blinking, to make you be sinking. You get initiated, indoctrinated, who concentrated, praise a man very desperately. They keep you away from family, use the Bible to keep you in slavery. You search and search for a place of peace. You're given new life and lies to rely on. As you wait for a jealous God to save you from a world that is cruel. Starts off good like it should, all cool. Then suddenly you change. They say that's a part of it. You accept it until the lights go dim. Some escape, some remain trapped, some end up dead. When you wonder why so many leave, then it's time for you to relieve. The definition of a cult. The definition of a cult is. The definition of a cult. The definition of a cult is. The definition of a cult. The definition of a cult is. The definition of a cult. Yep. Cult. I was back in 2016. I guess you can say I did join a cult. But at the beginning, like any other person, when you find a people, that's what we found a people that, you know, are telling us what we want to hear. Everyone's story is different when they join a cult. They may use the word religion or group or clubs. But we're always trying to find something, and usually when we're trying to find something, that cult somehow at the right moment tells us what we want to hear. Before I joined that cult, I would watch the so-called Hebrew Israelites, on the street, and I found them amusing with their arguing and fighting. It was amusing. At the same time, it was, you could say, educational, informal. I've always wondered, why the so-called black man behaves the way they do. I always wondered why the so-called black man is in the position that they're in. And the so-called Hebrew Israelites, they at the time, they answered that question. Some other places, people, whatever, were answering it in different ways. But with the way they said it, from the so-called Bible, is that we disobeyed, God's laws, and we were put in slavery. And immediately to me, that it just made sense. It just made sense to why we're in the conditions that we're in. At the time, it made perfect sense. In 2016, I was actually watching the Hebrew Israelites for maybe 2-3 years, and then finally, one day I was like, I wanna see this up in person. I want to learn in person. It was just at the right day, right time, where it all happened. Again, I'm trying to figure out why the so-called black man are in the position that they're in. I always wanted to know that. Why are they in the position they? Why do they behave the way they do? And the so-called street Hebrews, they sort of answer that question. I mean, I grew up as a Christian. I don't know if I was a Christian, but I grew up as a Christian. Long story short, didn't really understand it. Always been searching for different truths and whatnot. But Hebrew Israelite doctrine at the time just stood out. But anyways, I wanted to learn in class. I'm from a place where I don't have they're here, they're around, but they're not as prominent as in the States. So they're there, but you don't see them on every corner like you see them in the United States. So there's only a few. And I searched it on Google, and one of the first names that came up, I'm not going to call their name out. They're one of the first. They were one of the first to come up on Google. And when you go there, long story short, they're telling everyone, hey, we're being hidden. We're being hidden from the Google search. They don't, our name doesn't come up, which is a complete lie. At the time, I bought into it, but I knew it didn't make sense because I didn't say it out loud though. But their name was one of the first to come up on the list. Their name was there. First one I clicked. And the first one I went to. But anyways, 2016 was January 2016. End of January, right as we're about to get into Black History Month. And again, right place, right time. Chances are if I did not go at the end of January, I probably would have not been there because I wanted to learn more, and they were going to do this Black History special. And that's what made sense everything made sense at the time. But anyways, I get there end of January, and they said they're going to have a Black History, month special. Every day in the month, they're going to, be doing some special thing. I went there, though. I went there end of January. Then I went there the first week of February. And
it just made sense. The questions that I wanted to answer, that I wanted answered, just made sense. At the time, the so-called black men behaves the way they do because they went against God's law. The so-called black men are in the position that they are in because they went against God's laws. Just made sense. The people there were different at the time, welcoming, warm. The atmosphere was none like any other. It was not like the Christian church. And immediately, I wanted to get baptized. Immediately, I wanted to get, cut, and I did that right away. I didn't question anything. And I'm always overthinking. I'm always questioning things. But somehow, during this phase from February, so this is like winter till spring or mid-spring, I didn't question anything. I just went through with everything. Just went through with it. And normally I do question things. Normally I don't just jump into things. But I went on with it. The first year there was fine. First year was fine. Second year was okay and fine. But then after a while, it's like you just notice things. A lot of people leaving. Some of the leaders and other people there, their children are not in it anymore. These people are always eating Tim Hortons. Overweight. The so-called problems that they're having, other priests getting kicked out. You hear about priests being there, then priests leaving. So at the time you don't you question it, but you ignore it. I mean, if this is God's law and this is so great, why are all the priests leaving? I questioned it to myself, but not out loud. But it was still there in my subconscious. I didn't have anything that majorly happened to me. But over time, I just felt worse. I just felt like I didn't want to be there. I just felt out of place. I didn't feel warm anymore. Didn't feel anything. I just felt like everyone was leaving. You were there once, and I was there, and then the next year or so, or half a year, half of the congregation just left. Just like that. They just left. Let's say hypothetically there were 100 people there. I came months later, half of them left. We're down to 50. And slowly but surely, a few others leave. So now we're down to 40. The mornings used to be packed. I wouldn't say packed, but it was a good congregation. Half of them left, and it's only a couple people during the morning service. The so-called leader. There, I don't think he ever liked me. I don't know what it was. I remember being in their meeting to get baptized and all that stuff. They try to, make it look intimidating and all that nonsense. And you kind of go in there, hey, I'm tough, I'm with it. But they kind of, I don't know, I feel like they kind of size you up a little bit to see if you're worthy in their eyes. And then the leader came in, the leader of the whole thing. I don't think he ever liked me, but he made a remark about me. I didn't exactly hear what he said, but I think he made a remark. He walked in the room and made a remark about me. I didn't hear exactly what he said, but since then we've never really spoken, never said anything to me. Just the energy from him. Would I say he was like a typical cult leader? Not really, but like we just never interacted. He kicked a lot of people out for other reasons, a lot of arguing. Um, they would make a like a men's club, and then he would stop the men's club. I'm hearing different things of why he stopped the men's club. I'm hearing that he stopped the men's club because he didn't want, the men to be prospering. From what I heard, not in the exact words. He wanted the men to be, beneath. He will only select a few of them, few of his good little sheeps and puppets, and he only select a few of them. But when all the other men got together for, on one accord to help each other, and like this like men's clubs, he shut it down. And I heard it. They did one before, and he shut it down again. Um, yeah, and I didn't have anything that was like drastic or mind control like, because with me, I'm always thinking, I'm always doing my own research. I'm always doing my research. Always doing research on things. Even though I accepted the whole Bible and being an Israelite thing, I was still looking into other things. Because again, some things just didn't make sense still. Like, I mean, at the beginning it made sense, but as you're going, you start noticing things, you start questioning things, and some things are not adding up anymore. It's like that honeymoon phase. The honeymoon phase was over, and now I'm starting to see what this whole thing is about. People leaving, their children leaving. The leader doesn't really interact with me. I tried talking to him a couple of times. It seemed like he didn't want to talk to me. He also like I went to him confidential about an issue, and he basically told everyone. He basically told everyone my business. But cults, this whole Bible and following these rules and manipulating the rules to the people. The only cult, the only so-called religion that you need is yourself. It is yourself. And there's always going to be exception. I mean, when I say yourself, I'm not saying to hurt anyone. If you're hurting someone else or being arrogant or ignorant or just disrespectful, then that's questionable. But what I mean is, work on yourself, love yourself, protect yourself, grow, make mistakes, change, evolve, experiment, know thyself, be on your own journey. You can copy others, people imitate others, be inspired by others, but when we have these cults and religion telling us what we can and cannot do, then it's a cult. Then you have no ability to make choices for yourself. You rely on some book and some imaginary characters to tell you what and how to think or what to do. That's a cult. Any kind of club that has rules where they tell you what you can and cannot do is a cult. Sure, there should be rules for the club and etc. But if it affects your living, the way you eat, the way you do things, the way you talk, the way you dress, and they're telling what you can and cannot do, then that is a cult. You as a person should figure that out on your own. And obviously there's exception, not to just dress, like a ragamuffin, or to dress like one of those tricks. But again, I'm not telling people what to or what not to do. You on your own have to figure it out. And that means they're going to make mistakes. You're going to turn eye. People are not going to like you. People will like you. And that's all part of the journey. But to sit in some church or building, reading a fairy tale book, and having that, dictate what you do with your life, is a cult. It's nonsense. And I think one thing that saved me from this cult, I was there for 4 years. First 2 years was good. The last 2 were just the worst. It wasn't too bad. And again, I can't say I have it as bad as anyone else in a cult. And I think one thing that has saved me is because I kept doing my research. I kept looking into things. Kept reading things. I'm a person that doesn't like being told what to do. So I think me not liking to be told what to do, it saved my life. Even though I'm part of this religion, I'm part of a cult. Me being the don't tell me what to do kind of type, it saved me. Me being, relying on these imaginary characters for faith or for hope or for strength, that saved me. The strength that I wanted came from within me. When I was in these cults, I'm going through my problems as well, my personal problems, as much as I'm going through my discovery of what's going on in this world. But as I'm there, I'm getting worse. And none of them wanted to help me. None of them could help me. There really was no help there. No one really wanted to help me get better. And I think that's another thing why a lot of people join these cults. They want to improve their lives. I guess I joined this here just to learn, but also improve myself. But I wasn't improving. The message was fine at the beginning, but then the message kind of got dull, but I'm not improving. So I left. Imagine if I was arrogant, where I didn't mind being told what to do, where I just accepted things. I would probably still be there. But that's what I mean. You gotta work on yourself. When you work on yourself, know yourself, you don't rely on religion and cults. You can, I don't want to sound cliche, but you can do anything. But the moment you need religion and these cults, you're done. You're done. A lot of people don't break out of them. A lot of people join one cult and they join another cult. Religion cult, same thing. A few people break out of it. And I'm lucky enough to say, hey, I broke out of a cult. I could have been worse. I could have been like them. Kissing ass, being torn inside. I think a lot of them were still hurt inside. I think a lot of them were missing something, but, it's that delusion, the illusion, the manipulation, the acceptance, that socialization part that people like. And they accept it, and they accept these cults and religions. That's why they stay for a very long time. And it's a lot of reasons why people join and stay in cults. And for me, I was just there at the right time, right place. Imagine if I was not there at Black Friday. In a way I could say I wasted 4 years of my life. 4 years of my life I wasted. Some people die in these cults. I'm lucky enough just to waste 4 years. Because look, I was in there for 4 years. And looking back, I feel like I wasted a lot of time and gas. I also was gaining a lot of weight when I was there. Everyone is fat. They're always eating. Always eating. Feast days for everything. Always eating. And they're so fat. But then when I left, coached basketball, I felt great. I felt so great that I'm like, hey, I don't need this cult. I don't need this religion. And I left. Never looked back ever again. I was born in the church, left back in 2006. Had a little bit of a scare learning about the so-called Illuminati and all that stuff. Ran back in 2012, stayed in there for a year, then I left. Then 3 years later, joined the Israelites. 4 years of that, hated it, left. Coached basketball, loved it. And ever since I, left this religion, I felt great. Because every time I join it, I feel like crap. I join the church, I feel like crap. I join the Israelites, I feel like crap. Maybe not at the beginning, maybe not at first, but eventually still feeling like crap. Always being told what to do. Always having to cultivate and to adapt and follow others. And follow their doctrine. When you know it's questionable, you ask questions, it doesn't make sense. But a lot of people, I believe a lot of them know it doesn't make sense, but they stay there because whatever is there, they're getting rewarded. The socialization, the people, they get something from it. Religion cults, they're one and the same. Different names, they're not all going to act or be the same. The best cult, best religion is thyself. Know yourself beyond some kind of a, I don't want to say be this or do that, but figure it out yourself. Figure it out. But one thing I'll say, if to be a dictator, to act like a dictator is never join cults, never join religions. But if you do, if you have to visit, be strong. I ask you to be strong. But anyways, for Aska.